Well, when I text Phil Bennett earlier just to remind him about the show, yeah, we were going to discuss a lot of things, but obviously the coaching change at Texas A&M. I saw a note from Dan Wetzel from Yahoo Sports. Jimbo Fisher, in the end, was paid $2.7 million per win during his time at Texas A&M. And he's out. Phil Bennett, longtime college football coach, alum, played there, coached there at A&M. We've discussed it many, many times. Phil, if you were asked to be a consultant for this, do you go get the coach that makes everybody who wants to sit down and have a scotch and celebrate a big name, or do you want a fit? Can they find a fit like they used to have with RC?
They've got to find substance. They can't worry about winning the press conference or what the hot wire, the Twitter, what everybody's saying, social media. They've got to find a coach of substance. We've gone through 12 years of lack of leadership. And I'm not saying that. I don't have a thing against Kevin Sumlin. I coached him, or Jimbo Fisher, but we've had 12 years of lack of leadership. And everybody talks about what A&M can be. They've got to get this right, and they've got to hire a coach that has the substance, the organization, the direction, and can implement a plan to Jimbo got everything he wanted. Smoak, he got everything he wanted, and it just didn't work for him for whatever reason.
Phil, it seemed you mentioned that. I was going to ask that question. It seems to me, and A&M's power brokers can be famously, like many power brokers can, be famously meddlesome. But with Jimbo, he got everything he wanted, and the first time they meddled was saying, maybe you bring in Bobby Petrino to call them or bring in an offensive coordinator. I don't know if they necessarily wanted Bobby Petrino, but that's what they got. Is it hard for coaches when they do get all that they want, because they were given so much runway, to sometimes get out of their own way?
There's no question. You sit there and you watch this team. Of course, COVID probably gave him a couple of extra years. The year they won 9 games and went to the Orange Bowl. But, I just think that, and you look at the guys that one of the things, and I've said this to all of y'all, evaluation and recruiting is key. They are not a dominant team. They're not a team that you'll say, oh boy, they got a lot of NFL guys. They don't. So that tells me the recruiting, the evaluation, I don't care what their classes are ranked by 247, by ESPN. It doesn't matter. The production is about players that go and produce and go to the next level. They just haven't had that. So, whoever comes in needs to be able to evaluate, run a program, and do the things necessary to compete in the SEC.
Coach, what's it like this time of year in coaches' offices when you're seeing the news headlines coming down and it's that carousel type of a season? Just what's that like from a coach's point of view? Obviously, you're still preparing for games and whatnot, but how do you get, or how into the weeds do you get? And oftentimes it could be you yourself that's the focus of some of that talk.
Well, just what you're saying. You're focused. They've got 2 games, and they're going to let the powers to be find the coaches. And they've got to know that whoever is on their horizon, they better research it and make sure he's a fit. And there are such things as fits. I've told people there's good coaches. We know some good coaches. I've talked to a lot of coaches during this, and there's some good coaches in the state of Texas. There might be another R.C. Slocum that could take this program and give it some footing and some championship. I just hope that they don't. Everybody's mentioning Urban Meyer, and all the top people, but there might be some people that they really need to talk to see where they want to go.
Would you, if you were A&M, would you contact Jeff Traylor?
I would call. I have told everybody I've talked to. I absolutely would. I would contact Jeff because I think he gets it. I've known him forever. I played against him. I know what kind of coaches. He could get a staff together, and Jeff is smart enough to know that he might not be able to bring everybody from UTSA, but he gets it, and absolutely, I would think, and if I have any say in it, they'll talk to Jeff Traylor.
If you were a school in Texas, if you don't have an opening now, but you might, would you contact Jeff Traylor?
Yeah. You know, the job he's done there, like I said, I've known him and I've played against him. Jerry played against him. He manages well. His team is disciplined. They have a purpose. He keeps his finger on them. All the things that wasn't happening here is happening at UTSA. And you know, I think there's other people too. I mean, you got to look at a bunch of people. I think
Sure.
the guy at Missouri has done a great job. You know, Dan Lanning, I don't know if they could get him. Everybody mentions him. You know, they have this list of things, but you want somebody that's done it. And I'm telling you, and you know this, Smoak, when Jeff got to UTSA, it was down, and he built, and they evaluated well, and they are a football team and a program.
Coach, I was kind of referring to this earlier too, but what's it like in let's say the coach's office when you see another school that you're familiar with or might be a rival in conference, they make a move? Like when you guys were at Baylor and you see that Mac Brown's leaving Texas, just what's kind of the reaction within the coaches' offices, and what do you guys kind of talk about when that news comes across the desk?
We are all we're part of, we're the puppets in the game. And you know, I still remember, I tell people this, and I'm not an excuse maker, but I dreaded when they got rid of Mac after we beat them that year. I knew where they were going, and I'm telling you, it affected us in that bowl game in Arizona. It was a nightmare.
Yep.
And it affected everybody, and you just sit there. It's like something happens in Waco, it resounds all over the country. You know, in College Station, there's people saying, "What about this?" What, you know, you look at people at Missouri, you look at Oregon, you look at UTSA. Everybody's going, "What's going to happen?" You know, it becomes like a volcano shaking everything.
Phil, one of the names that I know this is like it would be out of nowhere, not really out of nowhere, but like a really, really, you know, long pass to complete if they wanted to. But Dan Campbell is the coach of the Detroit Lions. He bleeds as much maroon as anybody on planet Earth. Aaron Glenn's his defensive coordinator, for crying out loud. I know that you are familiar with those two guys. I don't think it would happen because he's done a great job there, but do you think Dan Campbell would be a good, because college and NFL is a different thing. Would he be a good college coach?
Dan is one of the best, toughest person I've ever been around. I mean, he was here with me. I loved him. You know, we signed Aaron Glenn to Purdue. I helped him come to A&M. I love those guys. I'm just not sure right now that they understand the college game is different, and they are doing such a bang-up job where they're at, and they've been there the last 20 years. I'm just not sure. Not that they couldn't do it. I'm just not sure that the switch would be an easy one. That's my thinking.
Well, hell, he's got a hell of a team right now.
Got a good team going in Detroit.
I mean,
maybe the best
he
thing
might
ever.
be in he might be in the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And you know, I laugh. He might be the one guy in the NFL, maybe Vrabel, but he could probably whoop any player on the team.
Good chance, yeah.
Oh, my Lord. Phil Bennett, Texas A&M alum, former player, former assistant coach, lives there, and, of course, with us on Mondays on 365 Sports.
Phil, what would you – Mississippi State is open. Zach Arnett, really good defensive coach and was a guy who was up and coming. That was a strange situation for him to try to maintain what Coach Leach was doing and kind of keep that band together because Mike Leach was so unique, and it's hard to just step into his shoes after suddenly losing him like that. I'm sure one day he's going to be a head coach again, and he'll be a defensive coordinator wherever he wants to pretty much as soon as that offer comes for him. What do you think Mississippi State does, or where should they go and look? Because they're in that kind of middle of the pack to the bottom of the SEC and need somebody to help them break through.
I think that he did a great job of holding together last year with Mike's situation. And, as sad as everything was, I think he probably deserved the job. I heard today that it was almost a make-good contract. Now, I don't know the extent of it. I know that they hired a new athletic director during this tenure. I'm not sure if you're aware of that. So he looked at it, and it really was just a bad timing thing for him. And that's what coaching is. I mean, either you hit it at the right time or you don't. And I think that all the things that you said, he is a good defensive coach. I think he'll have no problem getting a job. I think the athletic director, Selman, saw that I need to make the switch to my guy, and he took this opportunity because I think the payout is compared to Jimbo's is next to nothing. So that's the way of the world right now. With its NIL, I mean, every coach out there is on a short leash. And if you don't believe it, just look what's happening here.
Mm-hmm. Phil Bennett with us on 365 Sports. Craig?
Coach, TCU gave Texas a little bit of a run there late. Couldn't quite pull off the upset, however. Texas did also lose Jonathan Brooks, their running back for the year. Your thoughts on just that contest and Texas in the driver's seat right now as far as controlling their own destiny? Except for the playoffs, things would have to break. But if they went out, they'd have a good shot at that. But what did you think of that game, TCU and Texas?
It was an interesting game. You sat there and you kept watching. I had not watched TCU's quarterback as much as I did in this game. I watched the whole game. He got better and better and confident. And I'm just telling you, that's gonna hurt Texas not having Brooks. Baxter's a good player, and they do have some other backs. And I know this. Ewing probably can play better than he played after being out for 3 weeks. But I think TCU showed a lot of toughness and character. It's think about their season. After last year, lost a lot of people, won a lot of close games. It's just not happening for them right now. And that was a game that, with just a couple of breaks, they could have won that game. And it's just not happening for them. And then now, they've got their arch rival at the Baptist, so it's going to be interesting.
Phil, the thing you brought up about that game in the Fiesta Bowl out in Arizona, Art's name was all over the place. The Statesman sent a reporter, Brian Davis, to cover Baylor practice and also the game itself. He even told us that. Craig asked Art after practice one day about the speculation, and of course he kind of blew that off. He goes, "You can't believe everything you hear." So it was bad, huh? We were out in the lobby doing our show at the team hotel, and every time someone walked up to us, they asked us about what we knew.
Yeah, it was. I can say it now. I mean, it was. Art and I met we had villas out there, and he called me, and I went over there. I never asked questions because I know too many people, and he called me. He said, "Listen," he said, "I forget the guy's name. He was the AD. Wasn't there long. He was coming out there, and I feel bad now." I said, "Don't take it. Don't take it." little did we know, huh?
Yeah. You pissed off the whole nation down there. Yeah.
And that was, and I'm definitely not speaking for Art, but I do know at one time, just like a lot of people, that was his dream job because it's got so many avenues, to success. And but at the same time, I know, hey, Art was offered the tech job when Tuberville left. I got a call at 6 a.m. in the morning, and I told him, I said, "We got a better job. We got a better job. It's, we're getting it done here, and they're working with us." And so he definitely had opportunities, and what and I'm not an excuse maker. I mean, UCF played good, but our kids were hearing too much. I mean, you're right. It was everywhere. And they're asking me, y'all going to be here? You're going to be, and it just wasn't our normal situation.
I had players asking me what we were hearing because we were in the same hotel as you guys.
Oh, I know. It was right there in Scottsdale. It was rampant. And, keeping them, when you're at a bowl game, a coach's worst nightmare is keeping them corralled. I remember the night before the game, the security come got me and really one of our young coaches. And hell, I was up. Of course, it was a night game, but I was up and I had to go raise hell with the players because, they were just, you lose your bearings about what you're there for.
Well, and then also, that was the first Big 12 championship because then it was Michigan State, which, of course, the end of that game was gut-wrenching for anyone associated with Baylor. Yeah. But that was the first championship. Is there a chance you can almost celebrate that a little bit too much?
Well, maybe. And like I said, I sure don't want to take anything away from UCF. They did a nice job, and I just did not feel comfortable the whole week. And I can tell you that. My wife can tell you. She goes, "What's the matter? We're going to beat them." I said, I said, we were too many things going on. And maybe you're right because we hadn't been on that stage before. Maybe that was the issue. We went to the year before. We went to San Diego, and hell, nobody gave us a cut dog's chance.
Yep.
And we literally whacked UCLA. So maybe it was just the environment. And like I said, those things happen, and they affect so many people. I was just on the phone with KJ Morton. He called me. He's living in Columbus, Ohio. He brought it up. He said, "Coach, you remember the tackle?" I mean, I don't know if you remember the game, but they scored 21 points on balls thrown behind the line of scrimmage on missed tackle. I mean, it's the damnedest thing I've ever been a part of. They didn't even throw the ball downfield. It was 0 yardage, and KJ, and we had 3 interferences on third down that were horrific. We had a ACC crew, same crew that we had in North Carolina game. I mean, it was terrible, and we just couldn't get it going.
So what kind of job would you say that, and obviously Alabama still has games to play, but from where they were following the loss to Texas to who they are now, and unfortunately for everybody in the SEC, there's this team called Georgia, but they're going to play Georgia. They still have 2 more games to go. What kind of job for a guy that's known as maybe the GOAT has Nick Saban done from a guy from you who's coached the game as long as you have?
That's why he's Nick Saban. His preparation for him and his coaches is second to none. He covers all bases. He develops. He evaluates. I think I told you this. A friend of mine coaches there well, and he told me that even though Nick's not an offensive coach, he sat down with his quarterback after the South Florida game. He said, "Listen, I know you're getting the feel for this." He goes, "I know you have a system, but this is what we can do with this Milrose. This is what he can do and be good at." And I'm telling you, they have mastered it. And Kevin Steele has done a phenomenal job defensively. They've gotten better. They have a feel for it. I mean, they literally swarmed Kentucky last week. And on offense, all they've done is said, "Okay, this is where," their line wasn't even very good. And all of a sudden now, their line's clicking. And it's because of Nick. Nick covers all avenues. He is thorough. He is the GOAT because he makes it important. He doesn't tell you lies and feed you candy. He tells you the truth. He said, if we're going to win, this is what we got to do. And they're doing it.
All right, you mentioned the week in Phoenix. I got a question. Baylor has 2 games left. They're not going to a bowl game. They're 3-7. It was just a boat race, which was expected in Manhattan. We know that the storm, even David Rand has admitted around his name. How hard is it when you may know the end game here, although we don't, to keep that team completely focused, and or they're also asking the same questions? They hear the same things about Dave and maybe the future at Baylor.
It's hard. I mean, there's no getting around it. You're dealing with uncertainties and you're dealing with feelings. You're dealing with it's hard. It's hard for the coaches. It's hard for their families. It's hard for the players. This is where, you have to really, I've been through it. You've got to be above and beyond. It can't be about you. It can't be, it's got to be about us and the pride of finishing. I remember Jim Grove and I talked when we went to the bowl game, when we played Boise in that bowl game. And we had sort of had that stretch in there when we didn't have quarterbacks and we had lost a heartbreaking game to West Virginia. And he asked me, he said, Phil, do you think these kids want to play in the bowl game? And I said, absolutely. I said, it's our job, and I mean this, it's our job to make sure that we make this a big game. That's part of coaching. And if I go out there and I go through the motions and I'm half-ass coaching, then we get what we deserve. But if you're coaching your ass off and you're coaching like this game means something, and I'm telling you, that's one of the funnest games I think I had at Baylor when we beat Boise, because they thought we were just going to go out there, lay it down, and get our ass kicked. And they had ripping. They had a good team, and Jim did a great job of making that game. We all did, of being important, and that's where they're at right now. These next two games, hey, it's about us. People will remember, finish it right. Don't go through the motion. And I know Dave, I know that coaching staff, I know they will do that.
Thank you, man. Appreciate you as always, Coach. Thanks for your time.
Thank you, guys.
That's Phil Bennett.
Bye.
His thoughts mainly are